All right. Well, good morning, everyone. This is John Craig, and you are listening to Let Us Reason Together here on the Lamb Network. And I just appreciate you joining me this morning. I'll be joined by my co-host here shortly. I am your second day of the week host for Let Us Reason Together. It's based on Isaiah 118. Come now and let us reason together, says Yahweh. Though your sins are as scarlet, they will be as white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, they will be like wool. And this is where we sit down, reason out current events, cultural shifts, and of course, this week's Torah portion. And we can either push back or push through. Nevertheless, if iron does not sharpen iron, sparks will never fly, let alone ever get a fire going. And without a little heat and a good midrash, how will our hearts ever get soft and moldable enough to be transformed in the way that the Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, wants us to be? And maybe have a little fun along the way. So today is Monday, June 10th, 2019. It is the 7th day of the 3rd month of Sivan in the Hebrew year 5779. So what happens? What's going on today and what's being observed today on this great day in history? Yes, today is a history-making day. And today is Broom Flying Day. Broom Flying Day. Now, I don't quite understand that one because I don't hang out in the realms and in the people groups that fly their brooms. So, go figure. But it's also Ideal Man Search Day. Ideal Man Search Day. What type of man do you want? And by the way, last time I looked, there was only 2 genders, but so you got to find a man in the proper gender. All right, that's just me saying a couple different things, just speaking the truth. All right, Uniform Tan Day. Uniform Tan Day. So no more farmer's tans, right? Because that's what happens to me when I'm out there in the working outside every day, is that I get these farmer's tans. I don't have a uniform tan. It gets this, it's 2 different colors. It's just like 2-tone tan. How about believing in Ghost Day? Well, no, I'm not going to celebrate that. No, sorry. And then Massage Before Bed Day. Now, I'm going to tell you this. If you've never had a good massage, it is amazing. And all you want to do is like chill for the rest of the day and just like, it's so good. So massage before bed, that would probably be a great night's sleep. Here's some other things being observed today. Alcoholics Anonymous Founders Day. It's also Ballpoint Pen Day. I mean, can you imagine what life would be like without a ballpoint pen? Yeah, a ballpoint pen. I mean, look at this. This is a ballpoint pen. It's not, it's actually a different brand. But to have a ballpoint pen instead of having to dip it, celebrate it. How about Mom's Equal Pay Day? We'll talk about that here in a minute. Mom's Equal Pay. Should moms get equal pay? I think moms should receive a bonus. How's that? Yeah, because there's moms that they're stay-at-home moms. There's no greater job and more difficult job on the face of this earth than a mom who stays at home to watch over her kids, raise her kids, home her kids, take care of all the things on the home front and all the things that are involved with that. And do they get enough appreciation? And they don't get a salary for that. So I think we should respect the stay-at-home mothers. How about this? National Black Cow Day. National Black Cow Day. It's National Herb and Spice Day, or some people would say National Herb and Spice Day, but it's actually National Herb and Spice Day in the colloquial of my area. It's also National Iced Tea Day. What was that old commercial? The old Nestle's commercial where they fall back in the pool. National Iced Tea Day. There's a lot of brands of iced tea out there that are out there on the market, and it's hard to keep up with them. And here's some things being observed this week. National Clay Week, National Clay Week, National Email Week, and it's National Flag Week and National Shampoo Week. How about this? Great, and going on this month, Great Outdoors Month and International Men's Month. So if you're a man and you know what your gender is, guess what? It's time to celebrate it all month long. Okay, I had to throw that in, didn't I? How about this? Daily quotes from Monday, June 10th, 2019. Positive quote of the day. Thinking will not overcome fear, but action will. That's from W. Clement Stone. I think there's some truth in that. Just don't think about overcoming fear. Do something about it. Like attack it dead on. In fact, there was something that happened this weekend. We were celebrating Shavuot. That's the Feast of Pentecost. And we were at a campground with folks from our congregation. And this is a really interesting thing. We had our, families had their dogs down there. And so my dogs, there was something going on, like a stranger or somebody pulled up in a car, and my dog stopped and they maintained a perimeter. But this other dog, which I think she is an American boxer, she is like not just maintaining perimeter. She went on a charge attack, not to attack, but it was very interesting that she went straight to what appeared to be an issue as opposed to guarding a perimeter. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that what we're supposed to do about fear? Don't just sit back and go, oh no, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Go for it, attack it, and see what Yah will do. How about funny quote of the day? This is from, I'll say who it's from after I say it. Behind every great man is a woman rolling her eyes. Yes, my wife's not sitting next to me right now, but there are many times that I'll say something and she just gives me that look. Or she'll just roll her eyes, and she can't defend herself right now because she is not sitting next to me to roll her eyes. So I am just going to say that's a pretty good quote. But now I'm not endorsing the person who said it, but I'm going to give the person who said it credit. That's Jim Carrey. Moving right along, and this is the love quote of the day. Love is missing someone whenever you're apart, but somehow feeling warm inside because you're close in heart. That's from K. Knutson, or as you would say in Norway, K. Knutson. So, verse of the day. All right, here's the verse of the day. Actually, it's multiple verses taken from this week's Torah portion called Naso. And this is from number 622 through 27. And it says, then Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Aharon and his sons, saying, thus you shall bless the sons of Israel. You shall say to them, Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yahweh lift up his countenance on you and give you peace. So they shall invoke my name on the sons of Israel, and I will bless them. Isn't that good? I love that. We actually pronounce the what's called here the Lord's blessing. My mind just went blank. The Aaronic blessing. There you go. We invoke this over our people every Shabbat, and make that declaration. So it's a really good thing to do. What happened on this day in history? So today in history, on June 10th, in 1692, kind of an interesting fact in the American history, the first victim of the Salem witch trials, Bridget Bishop, is hanged for witchcraft in the colony of Massachusetts. Isn't that something to think that was part of our history in the United States? Maybe there's a connection to what that one thing is talked about, world, or it's broom riding day. I don't know, but is it tied to the Salem witch trials? And how many of those victims, were not even involved in witchcraft? Maybe they were just walking in the power of the Holy Spirit. Some of them, I think, were. I don't know. There's some history on that.
It was made up.
And there's, it was made up. A lot of it was just people were just they do the same thing today, especially when you have that women that are being mighty. they're just God put inside of them a mighty personality. And so people didn't like that. They're supposed to be women are supposed to be quiet and all that sort of stuff. And the thing just went totally awry, and women lost their lives because of it. Anyway, may we never return to anything like that again. How about this in 1793? 1793. Yes, that's when I said that. In the 1793, it was shortly after the United States had become a nation. Well, this is what happened in Paris. The first public zoo opens in Paris. Now, I'm wondering, was that the first public zoo ever in the world? And it opened in Paris? It could have been 1793. So very, very interesting. In 1845, now get this. I don't know if this is, I just thought this was interesting. So I'm going to bring it up. Andrew Jackson. Yep. In 1845, Andrew Jackson's African gray parrot called Paul, P-O-L-L, or Paul, something like that, like Polly, Paul, well, is removed from his funeral. So I guess Paul was taking part in the funeral, because the funeral was actually in his house. And why was he removed? It was for swearing at the Hermitage, at the Hermitage, Tennessee. Funeral attendee William Menefee Normant, we don't have that name very often anymore, but William Normant recorded, before the sermon and while the crowd was gathering, a wicked parrot that was a household pet got excited and commenced swearing so loud and long as to disturb the people and had to be carried from the house. Yeah, that was at Andrew Jackson's house. So was that just part of Andrew Jackson? I mean, he was kind of a bold man. He was part of making sure that there was not a Federal Reserve back in his day, stopping a national bank put in by globalist bankers. And so Andrew Jackson was quite a bold fellow, must have used bold language. And kind of interesting, because what does a parrot do? He just mimics language. How about this in 1693? So John F. Kennedy did this. In 1963, of course, we know that John F. Kennedy died in November of 1963, just before my birth, and he signed into law the U.S. Equal Pay Act. So John F. Kennedy basically saying that equal jobs deserve equal pay. But here's the thing in America is that we all have equal opportunity, but not necessarily equal outcome, because it is a performance-based society. A lot of people want to remove that performance base, but here we are. That's the way it is. And I think that's what makes for a successful country. How about this in 1982? And there's Sasha. Hi, Sasha. Hi. And then, and get this, this is a really big event. It happened in 1982 on this day. It is June 10th, 1982. There was a significant thing that happened over in Norway. Actually, it happened in the town Stavanger, Norway, where I lived for 8.5 years. What was this great event that everybody should mark on their calendars and remember from this day forward? Yes, John Craig, your host here at Let Us Reason Together, graduated from high school from the Stavanger American School in Stavanger, Norway. There we go. I had to build that up. It's a great milestone in my life. I was ready to leave Norway, and after I left, I really miss Norway since then. Norway is was a really good country, good people in Norway, and good memories going back to there. So here's some famous birthdays. So that's the last thing I had to say about this day in history. All right, famous birthdays. That was the last part, was just a little tongue-in-cheek. Just wanted to throw that in. Famous birthdays today, Prince Philip. And who is he? Well, he's married to Queen Elizabeth over there in Great Britain. And his full name is Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark. His profession is Duke of Edinburgh. And who is he? What's his nationality? British. And I thought this was interesting about this member of the British monarchy, and that it says here the long-serving consort in British history, Philip, has been the husband of Queen Elizabeth II since 1947 and has been the monarch's consort since her accession in 1952. Born in Greece to the Greek and Danish royal families, Philip joined the Royal Navy in 1939 and served in the Second World War. Same year, he began correspondence with then Princess Elizabeth. Prior to his engagement, he dropped his Greek and Danish titles and became a naturalized British subject. Keen on sports, Philip helped develop carriage driving and launched the renowned Duke of Edinburgh's awards. He was popular. He has a popular reputation for his sharp wit and for occasionally making jokes and gaffes, occasionally considered inappropriate if humorous. So in 2017, he announced his retirement from royal responsibilities at the age of 96, having completed 22,219 solo engagements since 1952. Philip is the oldest ever male member of the royal family. He's 96 years old. Wow, 96 years old, born June 10th in 1921. Born in Monrepos, Corfu, Greece. How about this one? I had to throw this name in as a birthday going on today. And by the way, if it's your birthday today, happy birthday. I wanted to throw in this name because more than this person is the whole concept. 1983. This person is an American actress. Her name is Lily Sobieski. Well, who is Lily Sobieski? She was one of the starring actresses in the movie Deep Impact and Joan of Arc, and also Uprising, born in New York City, New York. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, here is a face of a young actress born a year after I graduated from high school. I had to throw that in. But so here she's born. She's made these movies. Some of these movies have touched people's life. That Deep Impact we still have in our video library. And talking about this asteroid being hurtled through space that hits Earth. And it made me think about all of the unborn babies that have been killed through abortion, that in this lifetime of Lily Sobieski could have also had an impact on people, not necessarily on the big screen, but in the science and in the arts and in the culture and in the politics and in so many different ways that could be a voice, that could be a big voice, preachers, missionaries, that because of Roe versus Wade are not here for us to enjoy. And that's what caught my eye when I said 1983, Lily Sobieski was born, and how she has had a role in culture. And I don't know if she's a voice now or what she's done recently or anything like that, but the fact that how many other voices might we know because of, or we don't know because their lives were shortened before they're even born. And now even how they're talking about post-term abortions, in other words, murdering living children because they're not convenient to the mother or because of some other reason. And that's just, which is where our culture has gone. It's very, very sad. But to think of that, I just wanted to say those things. I just had to say those things. And to give us a sobering thought for today before we go on to the lighter side, which is where we need to jumpstart our brain. And I will be joined shortly, by the way, by my co-host. I'm still waiting for my co-host to join us, and they will be here shortly. So coming back to, where did my screen go? There it goes. All right. So on the lighter side of things, I'm going to pick up where we left off last week, where we can jumpstart our brain and some wit for the day and some things to untwist our brains. and some points to ponder about some unusual and strange phobias. Well, last week we left off on dextrophobia, fear of objects on the right side of the body, and levophobia, which is fear of things on the left side of the body. And I want to pick it up on this one called eleutherophobia. Eleutherophobia. And it is the strange phobia of freedom. Can you think about that? There's a strange phobia of freedom? How about this one? Epistemophobia. Epistemophobia. Well, what is epistemophobia? It is the strange phobia. It is a fear of knowledge. You know, I think some of the globalist elites, now I'm just talking off the top of my head, might have this, that if there's too much knowledge among the masses, maybe it would be a fear of their overthrow. If the people knew too much. I think there was something about that because back in the dark ages, they didn't want people to be able to read the Bible, to read the scriptures. They didn't want to have the knowledge of scriptures, but perhaps they would think for themselves. Here's one, erythrophobia. Erythrophobia. I don't use these words every day, so bear with me. It is the dread of blushing. Do you have a fear that you might blush at the wrong time? Well, you might be dealing with erythrophobia. There we go. How about this? Euphobia. A euphobia. Have you ever heard that word before? Euphobia. It is the fear of hearing good news. That would be really sad because of the good news of Yeshua as Messiah who came to earth and died on that tree and rose again to life. And that's all good news. And the whole good news, the best Sarah of going all the way back to the blessings that was put upon Abraham that would come upon all of the earth. And it was ultimately climaxed with Yeshua as Messiah. What? Some people might have a fear of hearing that. Okay. All right. Just moving on. How about this? Genophobia. Genophobia. It is the funny phobia of knees. Do you look at people's knees and go running the opposite direction? Isn't that okay? I guess it's a real thing. How about this? Graphophobia. The fear of writing or handwriting. Graphophobia. Maybe they type all the time or something. I don't. Here we go. How about this? How about gemophobia. Gemophobia. It is the fear of taste. You know, I think everybody has a little bit of this in them, the fear of taste. That's why perhaps some people only eat bland food because they're afraid of what it might taste like. Well, I tell you what, there's probably a sense that I have. I don't like peas. Is that a fear of the taste of peas? They must have something along that lines. I don't know. How about this one? Helminthophobia. Wait a minute. Helminthophobia. Helminthophobia. It is a phobia of being infested with worms. Ugh. All right. Oh, worm infestations. Ugh. All right. And this one right here, I'm going to leave it with this for this week. Oh, it's like this super long word, so bear with me. It is hippopotonstrosis equipedaliophobia. It's really it's a true word. And guess what? This fear of? It's the fear of long words. They made a really long word to say this is the fear of long words. That is totally crazy. Well, I want to introduce to you right now is my beautiful bride, Miss Sandi Craig. Good morning, Sandi.
Good morning.
I'm glad that you have joined me this morning.
I was just 2 feet from you.
I know you were within my line of sight, actually.
I still gave you some looks.
You did give me some looks. And if you were watching carefully on the camera, you had seen me look over the top of my computer.
Because you were waiting to see what my response
was.
Do you do all of this to see my response?
Sometimes I do. I do think I set things up because I want to know not want to know what you think. I want to see what you look like. Yes. Yep. I saw that too.
So, do we have our other co-host coming in soon?
I sure hope so. I have sent him the invitation. He said he'd be here shortly. So
Okay.
maybe I need to send another request. How about
Well, did you know that this is my birth Torah portion?
This is your birth Torah portion.
It is.
Well, that's really cool.
So it's not my Torah portion. I mean, my birthday passed a couple weeks ago, but
it was the one on during your birth.
Thus, birth Torah portion.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that for me.
I was just, just going to make sure you knew.
All right. Well, so this week's so we're waiting on James to be here, and where he's got the Torah portion. Shall we jump into the news?
If you want to jump into the news or the half Torah or whatever.
We could. Well, let's do the half Torah.
Okay.
All right.
For the half Torah this week, I am using John 7:53 through 8:11, and I'm focusing in on the woman caught in adultery. So I'm just going to read the word. John 8, verses 2 through 7. Now, early in the morning, he came again into the temple, and all the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. Then the scribes and Pharisees brought to him a woman caught in adultery. And when they had put her in the midst, said to him, Teacher, this woman was caught in adultery in the very act. Now, Moshe in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what do you say? This they said, testing him, that they might have something of which they could accuse him. But Yeshua stooped down and wrote in the ground with his finger as though he did not hear. See, he refused to be enticed by their gossip, by their jealousy. He bent down and he wrote in the dirt. It's interesting. Now, we've got to remember that three sins make us unclean, separating us from the community. What are they? Well, touching a dead body. We know that. We've talked about it. We've talked about all of this actually, but we're going to talk a little bit more about it. And then secondly, sexual immorality and touching a contaminated body. So in a way, gossip does all of that, lashon hora. And because it affects the one speaking, but it also affects those who are listening. We're not going to focus in on that part. That's not where we're going today. But Yeshua fulfilled the law because he did not listen to man's judgment. Instead, to man's judgment against this lady. Instead, he wrote in the dirt. Well, what did he do? He had wrote in the dirt on the temple floor. He refused to pass judgment against her. Is that an example to us to refuse to pass judgment? I think it's something we should consider. So he wrote in the dirt with his finger, and that was a Hebrew expression actually of his authority, that yes, I have authority to take care of this. I am Yeshua. I have authority. So I just know that writing in the dirt was an expression of his authority. In this one act, he revealed himself really as the Word made flesh, but as the authority, or Elohim, the Messiah, the author and writer of every law that there was. This one act also revealed who he truly is. So could Yeshua have written the law of jealousy in the dirt and the temple floor as a warning against everybody else that they shouldn't incriminate this woman? I don't know. The teachers of the law and Pharisees, they wanted to question him. But he went on to say, he who is without sin can what? Let him throw the first stone. Whoa. Should we remember those words? He who was without sin should cast the first stone. Well, I think all of us, no matter where you are or how long you've been walking this walk, we have moments where we forget who we are and we cast a stone as we listen to the stories, or we make judgments upon each other. Now, are we supposed to judge fruit? Absolutely. But we're not the judges of the people's salvation. We're not the judges that condemn. That's not supposed to be our job. That is not our job. It's a religious spirit. It's a religious spirit of judgment that comes against this woman, and that religious spirit takes hold of us as we say, well, here we expose people instead of cover them. Well, a believer should be covering another's sins. We shouldn't be exposing people We shouldn't be laying them naked, so to speak. Yeshua exposed that spirit of jealousy, and he actually exposed their misinterpretation of the law, because they use Yah's word as a striking rod against others instead of how to walk in redemption. Because it's really the story of how to walk in freedom, not how to beat somebody up over the head. Who was really, when those Pharisees stood around accusing this woman, who was truly the real adulterer? Because remember, adultery is also turning around to other gods, serving other masters. That's adultery. Psychologically, you accuse somebody of the very thing that you're doing. Who was the true adulterer in this situation? Who was it? Because we're all going to have to go stand before Yeshua one day. But in this situation, they're pointing out all of these mistakes, and in all likelihood, they were serving their own laws and not Yah himself. They were the very ones being caught in the act of adultery, so to speak, even though they laid this woman bare. Yeshua revealed their own hearts to them. And that's where we should be. Do we use the Torah to bring people to redemption, to bring forth life, to bring them freedom? Or do we use it and pass judgment? We all know the answer. We do the latter, not the former. Oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes. Because in and of that, we sort of become, we accuse of things oftentimes we're guilty of ourselves. Are we the ones that point the finger, or are we the ones that bring forth life? Those are just questions we need to ask ourselves, because in this story, who were the real ones caught in adultery? And remember, Yeshua wrote in the dirt. What's the dirt? We're made of dirt. That's almost representing us. And he wants to write in us and on our hearts his truth, his story of redemption, his Torah. And we're the dirt he longs to write in. He wrote in the dirt there, representing that, revealing his authority and showing us that the law is to bring freedom, not condemnation. But we as a people too often use it to condemn one another.
Wow, that's really good. It just made me think about, first off, when you were talking about Yeshua writing in the dirt, here is the word that became flesh, that had written the 10 words, the commandments upon the tablets of stone. And here he's writing there in the dirt whatever he was writing. Just the fact that it was so impactful that every accuser dropped their stones and walked away. That's just, can you imagine? And then the next thing is that it's better to show mercy than sacrifice or judgment or anything like that. His mercy endures forever.
His mercy endures forever.
What an amazing picture right there as well. Some things we need to really embrace. Well, James, good morning.
Good morning. Sorry.
It's good to have you here today.
Good to be here. Glad to be here. How are you all?
How's things out in your neck of the woods?
Good. It's hot, but very good.
All right. Hey, is there any way you could turn your volume up a little bit more?
Let me see. Yeah, let me come right back to you, okay?
Okay.
Give me a minute. So I'll come right back.
Okay. Well, how many times have you been, I think people who are doing something in the kingdom often are the ones that face the accusations more than anybody else.
Isn't that true?
Now, I'm not saying this woman was doing all of that in the kingdom. I'm just saying that I have been the source of accusations, so many false accusations. So have you, so is our congregation. So have we as the people who've separated ourselves out and call ourselves Hebrew roots. I think the new one is the Nazarene is going around, and I don't like titles. I think we need to become more one than start falling under titles. But
And it shouldn't be necessarily a title, but the understanding of what Yah is doing, and and because he's always called out, his bride is called out.
Well, and that's not the question really. We're talking about how do we use the Torah? How do we use his word? How do we treat one another, strangers as well as those we know, even those our enemy? How do we treat them? Though, and I'm talking not necessarily enemy that's outside, but those that rub us raw that are within the congregation.
Yes.
That how do we treat them? Do we use that word to bop them over the head? We've talked about that.
But the Torah
or to
police,
show, see, this is the word and this is what you're doing. Or do we love them into the kingdom?
right?
Now, is there ever a time where you have to call things out? Yes, there is.
There is, because you do have to, that the word is used for correction, but we have to be careful is that a lot of people like to be the Torah police, and as if
It's
to
said a lot, but
yeah,
it's true.
You know, I know it's used a lot, but you know, it is about what is the Torah supposed to be used for? It's the way and the truth and the life. And so this whole example of the adulterous woman that's who we are. We're deserving of death. In fact, when it comes to, you look at Revelation, what it happened in Exodus and what was cast upon the earth. And I look at Sodom and Gomorrah, what was cast upon the earth. They were, you know, they were, this fire fell from heaven, and you can go out there where Sodom and Gomorrah is and find these sulfur rocks. What happened in the Exodus, they were pelted by hailstones. What it talks about in Revelation is that the earth is going to be stoned.
Yeah, we're going to be judged for our own adultery.
And, you know, we're so ready to throw stones at people instead of showing mercy, that because we want to always make ourselves feel better.
We want our opinion known. We want to show everybody that we're right. And in actuality, guys, they need to hear our words, but more than anything, they also need to see our action. And we need to go to the side of mercy. How many of us have prayed for mercy and walk in that grace? I don't know. I prayed for it. Therefore, we should be the ones extending it.
You know, with the things that have happened in our lives, that mercy, my attitude's completely changed. I've learned some big lessons, and that what seems to be written down and what is accused, I have found is not always the true story. But that's where people.
It's usually not.
It's usually not.
It's usually not.
You know, so extending mercy and let Yahweh being the judge is probably one of the best ways to look at it. And always, we don't know people's circumstances. We don't know where they're at. We don't even know the truth of what's going on in their life. And yet we're ready to pass judgment because they might be having a bad day or something like that. So we need to extend mercy and say, you know, maybe there's more to the story than what I know. And the lion is roaring in the other room. So, all right. So, hey, James, you could hear Simba, couldn't you?
I could. Can you hear me better now?
Oh,
yes.
Yes.
All right. Sorry, I had to switch over. But how are you all?
Hey, we are good.
I heard a little bit about what I think I kind of came in late, so I apologize.
You don't have to comment. So.
Yeah, you don't have to comment. If you have some thoughts on any of it that you heard, then that's great.
Well,
but
I read the Brit Hadasha part, and I was going through it, and but when you were talking about the adulterous woman and how she was being charged, basically how she was being judged by the Pharisees, the one thing that kind of came to point too was that there was basically the Pharisees were willing to point out her flaws and what she was doing, but also they didn't bring the husband along with her. I noticed that. And one of the parts of the Torah says that they're basically to bring both of them to the front gate of the temple. They're to bring both, and she's been tried by 2 or 3, and there was nobody left to try her. And the thing is that a lot of times you'll notice in the church they teach that, look, he came to teach, bring peace. Now there's no more. They're not going to stone anybody, but that's not true. According to the Torah, she couldn't have been stoned. But and now look at our society today. We're very quick to judge others, very quick to point the finger. But We don't want to look at our own flaws, our own what's going on inside of us. And at the end of the day, the whole thing about walking in the Torah and walking with Yahweh, being a Talmudim of Yeshua, is all about our heart. What's our heart? And we're supposed to look at ourselves and to judge ourselves. That doesn't mean we can't tell somebody else they've done something wrong to help them along their way, but we are not to worry about everybody else and not ourselves.
All right. Yeah, very good. Well, this kind of goes along with what y'all are talking about. And I'm trying to decide which article I want to bring front and center. And because both of these are about casting stones.
I guess
Yeah. So, and one of these articles, it's from naturalnews.com, and it says Facebook bans natural news. Health Ranger responds with message for humanity. And this is one part of it. And then the other one, and it says, it begins Canada now arresting Christian pastors and prosecuting them for teaching the Bible. The war on Christianity escalates. And what is it about? It's about a certain community casting stones. I think I want to go with that one. I might tie in something here related to that first article, but this one is about a preacher. He's a street preacher, and that's his ministry. And he was in Canada. And I don't know if y'all have heard about this one yet, but he was actually down at a gay pride parade. And I watched the video of him last week and listened to what he was saying. And he was just talking about, that God loves the people. God loves you. And he was quoting scripture like God so loved the world that he gave his only son, and other verses like that, and talking about how God wants to be part of their lives and he wants to have a personal relationship with each person that's there. And the crowd became vicious. They became animalistic. I mean, they started screaming and hollering and cheering when the police came up, and then the police detained him and removed him from the premises. And then they threw him in jail and arrested him for this message where he wasn't out there bullying. He wasn't out there marginalizing people. He was just simply, God loves you. There's hope for you. I accept you. I tolerate you. This was his message. And he said, I shouldn't be in this position. I didn't do anything illegal. And yet the LGBTQP mob were the ones that approached him. They were the ones that were acting.
They all need to be in jail
purely out of anti-Christian hatred. And these, what they call Christ phobes, so we're talking about phobias, had an event waiting for me. Lynn told the media following the incident, saying that some they had some form of hatred against him and wanted him to stay in the closet concerning his Christian identity. All right. So here, this is the whole thing that's going on. It is completely reversed. The anti-Torah people, in other words, the lawless people, now are the ones casting stones in judgment for people that are expressing a message of mercy.
I think it's interesting that they want to come out of the closet, so to speak, but they want to silence anybody else. It's so vile and it's so vindictive, and it's such a kingdom against kingdom issue. And we need to watch, and we need to be praying for our Christian brothers as well as our own family, because this is coming our way, folks. And this disgusting tide that wants to destroy Yah in any form of fashion and uplift immorality and uplift vile things 50 years ago that would have turned our grandfathers and grandmothers, and not to mention at the founding of this nation, now has become the norm. And if you're not disgusting, if you're not, if you follow any kind of moral life, not to mention just Christianity or being a believer, then you become the target, and they want to destroy you, so that all that remains is there's no more vestige of faith in society.
Yes, that's right. This article says, so in essence, it's now a crime to be an out of the closet Christian in Canada. where the cult of LGBTQP now has free reign to persecute Christians they don't like as criminals. Pretty much anything that upsets the LGBTQP mafia, in other words, is now prosecutable crime in Canada.
So who rules? This small percentage of people rule the world, seems so to speak, or at least the Western civilization. Hello, people. We are greater in number than them. Let's raise our voice.
Yeah. So this is a big deal because this just happened this last week in Canada at the beginning of, because I think, isn't this Gay Pride Month or something like that? I don't know. They shouldn't even say that. It should be like homosexual. They shouldn't even use the word gay. That's a totally kidnapped word, in my opinion. Well, we got cat action around here. So that's that part of the story. And James, I'm going to come to you here in a second. The other part of the story has to do with how there's a censorship with Facebook and YouTube and many of these platforms where Pinterest, Google News, Apple, other techno-fascists, they are now doing this, including Wikipedia. They've decided that no speech that questions any official narrative will be allowed on any platform. Anyone who questions the safety of like toxic vaccines, 5G cell towers, geoengineering, chemotherapy, or glyphosate, weed killer chemicals is now maliciously attacked, smeared, and deplatformed. You're not even allowed now to talk about nutrition, anti-cancer foods, or nutritional supplements without being labeled a vitamin website accused of pushing fake cures. So anyway, there's all this stuff that's happening. It's these castings of stones for standing on the truth. James, what are your thoughts? Are we the adulterous bride? And they're casting, I mean, this program essentially could be censored because we're talking about these issues. We're talking against the narrative.
And I believe it will be. The thing that we got to think of is that, like, for too long, the believers have had their heads stuck in the sand. They've allowed things to go on to the point to where now we're the ones being persecuted because we've sat back and we've said, oh, well, that doesn't affect me at the moment, so I'm going to let it go on. Well, the thing is that they're violating our constitutional rights. Facebook, any of these groups that are doing that, we have the right to free speech. South Carolina, the University of South Carolina, liberal arts community, all these schools, but the University of South Carolina, I think it was last week, they literally had they shut down a group of students because they were breaking their code of speech. The thing about free speech is it's a constitutional right. If somebody shuts down our free speech, people with money, I don't have it, but people with money should be fighting back and saying, hey, you can't do this, Facebook. You can't do this. Because if we don't, eventually we are going to be silenced to the point to where the Bible, the prophecy of people being beheaded will happen. I mean, it's going to happen, but that's, in my opinion, how it's going to come. But we can no longer sit back and be silent. But as believers, we've got to start uniting and stop being so we bicker about every which thing. The other day, I'm on Facebook and I spelled Yeshua, Yeshua, and this guy gets on there and just blasts me. It's YAH and blah, blah, blah. Why are we arguing about this goofy tiddly stuff?
Exactly.
When we could be uniting under Messiah? Who cares my grammar or how I spell it? What day I'll do it? You know, it's just insane. But we've got
anyway.
It's insane. We've got to start uniting as a group. Even Christians and people who are Messianic believers need to unite, because if not, we are going to be silenced to the point to where it's not going to make a difference how you spell it.
Oh, you're so right. You're so, there were casting stones at each other, and we need, and this is why I bring this up. And so why are you talking about Christians or Christianity? Because first off, they believe in Yeshua the Messiah. We're all part of the body of Messiah. They are living out the truth to the fullest of ability of where they are at. And that's what they're held accountable to. And so here's the thing. When they go after them, it also means they are going after us. For those of us that have a Messianic or Hebraic roots point of view. So if they're going to go after people, they're going to go, it's us too. and whether it's conservative or not, we need to stand up. Now, here's something that I wanted to talk about is that President Trump has actually now looking at bringing about antitrust or antitrust legislation. He doesn't make legislation, but invoking antitrust laws against these platforms because they're acting like publishers as opposed to a what do they call it? A platform for free speech. And when a publisher can edit, but that's not how they're set up. So when they edit free speech, then they're in violation.
Then I think he should
of laws regarding it's not on the top of my head right now. So that's what he's doing, and that's what he's bringing about, and he's enforcing that. He's bringing about it's under investigation right now, which means that they'll be broken up because they're monopolistic and then they're joining together. It's the same thing that the railroads did, and the railroads were broken up because by joining together, the railroads created a monopoly, and then they could control how much they charge the farmers and shipping their goods to market. So it's basically same thing. They are creating and silencing those of us that have a different point of view. Sandi, do you have any other thoughts on it?
I have a lot of thoughts, but not enough time to say them. We've got to push back. But the biggest problem is when you're accused of this, the cost to defend, if you're innocent, the cost to defend, even to prove you're innocent, is exorbitant. We've experienced that. We are walking that out even now. Tens of thousands of dollars, and you're innocent and you're just the normal Joe out there. And unless you have lots of money, or unless people are willing to give to your cause, it's almost impossible to defend yourself, because really in the system, it's all about a battle of lawyers. It's all about who's their speech. And so what do? We do need to fight back. We need to face what we need to face. But we've also got to remember, it's not against flesh and blood we fight, because it's powers, principalities, and rulers in high places. So the battlefield is twofold. Yeah, we fight on our knees, but we also stand up for the truth. If we would truly make our voice as loud as all the lettered community, are they going to add, how many more letters do you think they're going to add to their name? Then we would, our voice would be loud enough that we could be affecting society. How do we do it? I don't know, but we need to do it.
Yes. Yeah, we do. We do. All right. Well, I think that's some things for us to think about, and how it, as we tie in the Torah to our everyday life, and how do we act it out? We should show mercy against those who persecute us, but we should not close a blind hand, or, like James was saying, put our head in the sand. We also have the right to stand up because that's what they did in the first century when they were being persecuted. They stood up for their rights. All right. So, and I have examples of that, but not enough time to talk about now. We're ready for the Torah portion. So, James, you've got the Torah portion today. What do you got for us?
All right. Today, the Torah portion is basically, it's on called Naso. It means raise up. And basically it means like raise the heads up, but we see that this week it's, what is it? Oh shoot, Numbers, or I just had it here. I just lost it on my phone. Anyways, it's called Naso. It talks about the adulterous bride and the repercussions for an adulterous bride, and if there were 2 or 3 witnesses, she was to be put to death. So was the adulterer, the male too. They were both to be put to death. But the thing that I found interesting is that we were an adulterous bride. That's what we were, and that's why we deserved death. At Sinai, that was a marriage covenant that they signed a ketubah. It was a agreement between Yahweh and the children of Israel, and they became. And they were in a bridal covenant. It was a marriage covenant. And the thing is that we see that not too long afterwards, in Exodus 32, they break that covenant and they break their agreement. And basically they went after other gods, which is idolatry, which is adultery. And we see eventually that Israel, the northern kingdom, gets a certificate of divorce in Jeremiah 3. And what that means is that that bride could never return to Yahweh. They could never, according to Deuteronomy 24. And the thing that's really interesting is that it's not interesting, it's amazing, is that Yeshua came down and took our place to what we deserved. And he gave up his life for us. And he gave up his life. He didn't, there was no reason. It just shows when people want to know the love of Yahweh, it's the fact that he came in the flesh and gave up his life. He gave it up so that you and I could be back into a relationship, a covenant relationship with him. That's what the new covenant is. And instead of the covenant being on stones, it's on our heart. It's an amazing thing to see. But we have to remember that we were an adulterous bride. And I don't know where I'm going with it, but it's an amazing thing to know that Yahweh gave up his life for us. And when people talk, a lot of believers don't even understand that today, that the love of God is the fact that they say he gave up his life for us, but what for? The fact that we deserve death. Why? Not just for any sin, because we chose someone else over him. And I wish everybody knew that part, because it's when you go to express that to others, how amazing would it be to understand truly, to tell people this is what he gave it up for and this is why. I don't know. It's you guys run into that a lot, where a lot of people don't understand that part of it.
Yes. Yes. And that's really true, because there's been so much confusion. I think, where you get people and you see these kids that are raised by the government. They're in government schools, and they use the term public schools, but they're government schools. And in our government schools, they teach the truth out of kids, even kids that may have been raised in a family. And so they then have a different way of even believing who Yah is, because they don't see the truth, and then they have a problem with it, and then they reject it, and they're confused. And the only thing I can say is that we have to keep speaking the truth and keep planting that seed within them, because then the Father can allow it to be watered and allow it to bloom and come forth. I was thinking about how it is in Revelation, where we were talking about this earlier, about how this planet's going to be stoned. It'll be stoned. It talks about fire and brimstone basically coming upon the earth. It's going to pelt the earth with asteroids or whatever it is, and it's a stoning, that takes place because of a people that have been adulterous. And I think about that. Is judgment because of God's hatred of this evil that's in the earth and this adultery that's taking place? Or is it mercy by which he would allow something like this, that he's told us ahead of time that it's going to take place? So is it mercy that he tells us ahead of time, but he allows this to happen for the sake of restoring people to himself, maybe to get their attention? I don't know. What do you think about that, James?
I think definitely. I think it's definitely mercy. I think also you have the wrath part, but he tells us everything in advance. And the thing is that if somebody tells you something in advance and you go and do it anyways, society would call us pretty stupid. I mean, as a whole, if I tell you don't cross the street when cars are coming, and you decide, because you'll get hit, do you just go and cross the street? No, you don't. But as a people, we know that these things are going to come about, and yet we still do it. And it's almost because we don't hold him. We do not fear him. We no longer fear Yahweh. The fear of Yahweh is not even taught, because if we feared him, if we had that healthy fear that I have a healthy fear that when I touch the hot stove, it's going to burn my finger. We don't have that of Yahweh as a whole. No. But but the fear of Yahweh is not taught anymore. And I truly believe it's a terrible thing, because it's not that we're supposed to fear him shaking and trembling. It's a healthy fear that, that there's a repercussion if we disobey him. But obedience isn't even taught. So what do we expect?
Yeah, good point. Well, and I think about the golden calf that was made. And when Moses came down, he saw the golden calf and he broke it into powder, and he shattered it into powder, ground it down into powder, and poured it into the waters and made the people drink. And people were writhing in agony because they drank the bitter waters. And those that had committed adultery with that golden calf, and surely a sign by which I think at every point along the way, people had the opportunity. People had the opportunity to repent. People had the opportunity never to go there. And I was just thinking about this too. We just had Shavuot. The Feast of Pentecost was yesterday. Well, if that was the anniversary of the Feast of Pentecost, it was 40 days later. 40 days later is within that period of time, 40 days, and the golden calf incident occurred. 40 days. 40 days where people saw God come down on the mountain, heard his voice to the point that they had a healthy fear of Yah. And they said, Moses, you go listen to him and just tell us what he had to say. I mean, 40 days, and it was enough for them to turn around to look at a golden calf that was inanimate. It couldn't speak. It couldn't move, couldn't do anything. And that's what they wanted to follow. So a deaf, dumb, mute object representing the God of their own making. And but we as believers need to watch out that even in 40 days, here we have a great feast and a celebration, and we can come back around and easily commit adultery just like they did. So, well, we're running close to time. Any other thoughts there, James?
No, I mean, I think as we just celebrated this Shavuot, it's a good time to remember to focus on the fact that, we are in a bridal relationship, a bridal covenant relationship with our Creator, our husband. And the thing is that how do we love our wives? We should be looking, how do we treat our wives? And our that relationship should mirror our relationship with Him. And if one of them doesn't, then we're messing up in one area or the other. But it's a good time to focus on our marriage and to focus on our relationship with Yahweh. And, and just remember that we are in a covenant relationship and there's rules to that covenant. There's rules to that covenant, but but also it's a time to really be thankful and grateful and blessed, know how blessed we are.
Amen. Amen. Well, really good. Thank you, James, for bringing the Torah portion today and being part of our show. I really appreciate your input that you have. And Sandi, thank you for being part of the show as well. We certainly appreciate that. And with your input, it was really good. So we will be back next week, y'all willing, and with more great things, exciting things to discuss and stay on top of. And as always, stay tuned with everything that's happening here on a Messianic Lamb Network. Here on YouTube, we've got the live. You can participate with us in the chat room whenever there's a live event, as well as just going and listening at MessianicLambRadio.com, where every one of our shows are also simultaneously broadcast. So we want to welcome you all. Catch us in the archive. Give us a thumbs up if you like what you're hearing. Pass it along on your social media. And hopefully we can stay on the platforms as long as possible, because we want to speak the truth. So, well, until next time, this is John Craig for Let Us Reason Together. And I want to say, Shalom.